Hey everybody, Ashindor here. As you have probably noticed, this is not the Duelist screen that we are looking at. It has been almost a month, maybe a little over a month, I think, since I last made a video. Partly that's because real life got really busy there for a little while and we were dealing with some issues, but it's also just because I haven't really been in a Duelist mood lately. Something about the current state of the game, or just my kind of overdoing it a bit, possibly, has me feeling a little bit burnt out on it. So right now, I think that I'm going to put Duelist a bit on the back burner, probably until the next expansion hits and pulls me back in with new cards. And instead, I'm going to be trying to look around for some other things to play. And so I wanted to return to kind of the original intent, actually, for this channel, which was just going to be me finding cool games that I really enjoy and trying to grow as a player and hopefully illustrate cool things about all these different games and hopefully help folks improve as well and feel more comfortable with games and things like that. So I've returned to a game that I used to play actually quite a bit of back when it first came out and then haven't touched for a long time, which is Heroes of the Storm. Heroes is a MOBA similar to League of Legends or Defense of the Ancients. And if you haven't played any of those, I'll talk more later about how the game actually functions. But I have got kind of a mixed history with this style of game. I have played them all the way back to the original Defense of the Ancients map in Warcraft 3, and then I've dabbled in things like League, and then I played, as I said, Heroes when it first came out. And usually what ends up happening is I'll play it for a little while, decide I want to get really good at it, become extremely stressed trying to master what are frequently fairly complicated, nuanced mechanics and strategies at the kind of higher levels of play, and then say screw it and go play something that's a little bit more my speed. So unlike something like a Duelist, where I think I can say with at least some authority that I am a pretty good player, like not the best by any stretch, but I can play at higher levels of play, I have a pretty firm grasp on the underlying mechanics and strategy, I can advise newer players with some level of confidence that I'm not, sending them in completely the wrong direction. With Heroes, I would say that I am more of a mediocre player. There are things that I think I do pretty well in the game. I think that I am probably a better person to get matched with than the average rando on the internet, but that's not really saying a whole lot. So part of my goal for this video and this series of videos is going to be me trying to improve as a Heroes player and trying to become more of that not super top tier grandmaster on the ladder level, but on that, if you get me in a group, you can rest assured that I will not be the guy that screws you over, feeds the team, or whatever it is, right? So, I'm going to talk more here in a second about the intricacies of the way Heroes works, and hopefully we'll actually get to a short gameplay video, but first I want to talk a little bit about the setting of Heroes. So I'm going to go into the play menu just to illustrate what's going on here. So Heroes of the Storm is composed of characters from all of Blizzard's different intellectual properties. So we're talking Warcraft, Starcraft, Diablo, Overwatch, and then a couple other random things where if I can find them, I know they're over here somewhere. Oh, you know what? I can actually just click this button. Like the Lost Vikings from so long ago. Oh my goodness, this is retro right here. So anyway, basically what happens is you choose from amidst all these different heroic characters, and they get dropped into a map on a 5v5 setup. So you're teamed up with 4 other players, each one of which controls their own hero. Now this style of game actually, a little bit of video game history here, which I honestly may get wrong, but this is my understanding of it. This style of game really grew out of custom maps in real-time strategy games. The one that I'm most familiar with that I think is probably not the very original, but is certainly an important milestone, is Defense of the Ancients, which was a Warcraft 3 map. And basically, unlike normal real-time strategy play, where you're sort of controlling a giant force of units, you take a single hero and drop them into that overall map where there's a whole bunch of NPCs engaged in a sort of ongoing struggle, and you controlling a single hero sort of turn the tide one way or the other. So for example, in Heroes, there are a whole bunch of different maps, which is one of the things that I really like about it. Each one has their own sort of unique conceit and different mechanics in each map. So for example, in one, when you're not wailing on the enemy team, you'll be killing plant monsters and harvesting seeds to grow a single giant plant monster that you can possess. It'll make more sense when we get to that map. Or perhaps you're trying to seize 2 magical altars that will allow you to animate a giant dragon statue. Also will make more sense when we get to that map. And ultimately the goal is not to rack up kills, per se, although those do help and are very fun, but instead to destroy the enemy team's home base. Along the way, there's a whole lot of much more intricate mechanical concepts that we're going to have to go over and figure out and master. So, all that said, here's where I'm at with Heroes of the Storm. As I mentioned earlier, I did play quite a bit of this game when it first came out, and I think I actually played a little bit of open beta as well, maybe some closed beta. It's honestly been a while. And so I am level 40, which in the experience progression is the highest level. So in other words, I'm gaining experience as an account does nothing for me at this point. I have a decent number of heroes unlocked. I have a few of them approaching level 10, which is sort of like the master level. I do not have any level 10 or higher heroes yet, so that's one of the things we're going to be working on. I have predominantly, I would say, warrior and assassin heroes unlocked. I'm going to talk more about how roles work later. I've got, I'd say, 3 supports and then a couple of specialists. I don't have variant unlocked, which means right now my options are kind of lopsided in terms of what I can play on a team or what I like to play. So to kind of set some initial goals for myself, just to illustrate, here's Ashindor right now. Here's what Ashindor is going to be trying to do. Right now, I am pretty solid on playing warriors. I would really like to move from pretty solid to really good. So my first order of business is to maybe not master, that's probably a little bit aggressive, but become very confident on a set of beefy warrior heroes and get, 1 or 2 of those to level 10, to where I feel very confident playing the tank role or, the bruiser role in an actual team comp. So that's goal 1. Second goal, I have a lot of assassins unlocked, but although playing assassins can be very fun in the sense that it's nice to rush in and blow somebody up, it's a good example. I really like Zeratul. This is one of the only heroes I've actually bought a skin for. I'll talk more about that at a different point when I go on about Protoss. But I really enjoy blowing up random people. But in this game, blowing up random people is not actually anything particularly exciting unless you're able to do it within some sort of larger strategic context. And so I want to actually put my assassin characters on the back burner, even though they're the ones that I have the most unlocked of, and pick either a couple more specialists, which are kind of on, or just bite the damn bullet and learn to play support. Support is not a role that I usually choose to play in almost any game. I don't play it in MMOs. I don't play it in Overwatch. I don't usually play support. But support is often one of the most, if not the most, one of the most critical roles in any of those games. And if I am able to get at least a couple supports that I like playing, that will really reduce my reliance on the internet giving me a reliable partner. So those are the 2 goals I have. Become a really, really solid warrior player and learn a couple of supports that I can play without embarrassing myself. So, with that said, I want to talk a little bit about the different options for how to play heroes, and that will probably conclude this initial introductory rant video. Basically, you got versus AI, which, in my view, is a pretty good practice mode. Unlike certain other games, I think the AI opponents in this actually are, in some cases, a pretty good, enemy to practice against. The problem is that if you're playing with AI teammates, it is an exercise in frustration, because the 5 computers you're fighting all coordinate perfectly, whereas the 4 computers that are supposedly helping you just ignore whatever you're doing and sort of scatter around the map and get themselves killed. So it's useful for trying out a hero and sort of getting your feet wet, not very useful for really enjoying the game, in my experience. What I play most of is Quick Match, which is where you select the hero you want to play, whatever that might be, and then it will try to match you with a team of other players in a configuration that sort of makes sense. So if I'm playing Diablo, who is a warrior, he can be very tanky, pardon me, it will typically try to match you with other players of around your skill level playing assassins or supports or whatever. However, as with all matchmaking systems, it can end up being something of a grab bag as to what you actually get. And so with Quick Match, you do tend to run into weird situations where you've got like 4 ranged assassins and a tank on each side, and it's just kind of like a little weird, I guess I would say. So Quick Match is sort of where I've been really playing a lot, because it's a very good situation for practicing a specific hero, even though the context is not necessarily there. Unranked and ranked, depending on whether you're playing just for funsies or trying to compete on the ladder, is a draft format where you are set up with a map before anything else. You've got your team of 5, and then once that's all decided, then you start selecting heroes, first one team, then the other, in kind of a bounce-back fashion, and also banning certain heroes. And so it becomes more of a strategic game in which you're trying to compose a solid team on your side that is appropriate to the map. Tracer, you're adorable, but I need you to stop that while I'm recording. And frickin' Tracer. But then it's also good against the opponent's composition, and you can try to use bans to hit one way or the other and deny them certain critical heroes, or just ban things that are like super OP that you don't know how to deal with. So ranked is where we are trying to end up, but I am not wanting to just rush in and get really frustrated with it. So we're gonna take a slow build. We're not gonna just jump in. Then finally, there's Brawl, which is sort of the equivalent of arcade in Overwatch, and there are probably other games that have similar modes. I'm trying to think of what other good comparison points would be, but I don't have them on my head right now. Basically, it's a map that just uses custom rules that change each week. For example, this week's is Hammer Time, where both teams are all Sergeant Hammer, which is the tank hero. And then there are special rules for the map, where basically the map plays out much quicker than it ordinarily would. And so it's just sort of like a dumb, fun way to play the game. Sometimes it's a rule set where like it's all StarCraft heroes, or heroes that have StarCraft flavored skins, and you're all playing on a StarCraft map. Other times it's custom rules like Hammer Time. So it's just a weekly rotation of fun things to do. We'll have a new Brawl tomorrow, it looks like. So I've already completed Hammer Time. And then you can do various custom games. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are a bunch of different maps in Heroes. This is one of the things that differentiates it from other games of this type. Each one of the maps has its own layout, its own unique mechanics that players will need to understand and adjust their timing to. For example, Blackheart's Bay has a ghost pirate ship, and you have to collect these coins to pay the ghost pirate to bombard your enemy's base. Whereas Sky Temple has magical altars that activate periodically throughout the game, and whoever is able to maintain presence on the map at those points creates a giant laser beam that blows up the opponent's base. So there's like a bunch of different things that offer alternate win conditions beyond just killing your opponents and smashing their stuff. So, all that said, I think I'm going to conclude here this sort of introductory video. There's other elements that I will be talking about more as we get into it, but for right now, this is Heroes. This is what I'll be playing probably for the next few videos, I would say, although I might play Overwatch or something if I get in a weird mood, but I guess if anybody's actually still watching this, which, thank you, feel free to let me know in the comments whether you think this is you're interested in watching more of different games like this. There's a few other things I'm kind of interested in playing. I like to record. I did a couple videos of Elder Scrolls Legends, but that was very similar to Duelist. This is very distinct. So, I don't know. I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to see how it goes. But in the meantime, hopefully you guys don't mind a slight change in pace, and thank you very much for watching. Good night.